That's a great question to get the simplicity and clarity. So, why now? Because your progeny, your children, are being set up to euthanize you, to be given any excuse. And then we have the evidence to back it up, or we cite particular scenarios, i.e., where there was extinction rebellion, children turned on their parents, they just marched out of school. Who facilitated that? Who motivated them to walk out of school? I'm talking 11, 12 year olds, Extinction Rebellion. And some of the citations I think that I'd mentioned, it's in that, the name I think is in the document. So Gen Zombie, uber, mega entitled like Zionists. Yeah, that's the urgency. That unless there's an addressing for both the parent and the child, that this is how you're being, it's an intergenerational divide as well through schooling, universities. Oh, your parents' generation didn't have this. And the media, the system is set up for these kinds of divides where there are recent court cases and where young activists are being wrongly sentenced or fraudulently sentenced. And then the pushback societally is these are boomers and Gen X condemning Gen Z. That's going on globally. Now, anyone with a bit of overview, holistic awareness can see that, how these patterns are playing out. What we'll do is solidify them. So we'll make that argument. Why now? Because your kids have already been taken away from you and they're being turned against you. We saw it during COVID. Um, Adults were turning in their elderly parents for COVID. Oh, this is the vulnerable group. They're dead now. It was already done. Now, do you really think Gen Z is not going to turn around and say to Gen X, you basically murdered your own parents. You murdered my grandparents by giving them or encouraging them to take a bioweapon, which was unproven. Now, when they're ready, the media, the architects of society will turn around and flip the script and do that. So obviously, we're not going to make it in this elaborative an explanation, but we'll just use certain COVID, Extinction Rebellion, and the recent court cases. We'll just highlight this is the pattern being played out. And I hope that's clear enough, yeah? But like I said, good question to pinpoint. Why us? Why this? Why now?
We need a hard-hitting message that when historically socialism and communism, it's not neat. When these kinds of overthrows happen, revolutions, there's a seizure of capital. There's a intergenerational pushback. And what are the comparisons? Because as he's mentioning, if young people are, especially with like the welfare state, if they're veering towards that kind of structure, there is a lifelong urgency need for and there, on a feeling behavior level, justice. But what does that justice mean? Revenge. You took opportunity. You didn't give us the opportunity. You robbed that generation. That's why I'm saying things that are harshly like eugenics. Now, do we really think the social, societal controllers don't know that? Health Ranger Mike Adams, yeah, he's mentioning that. The podcast that he was on, they're mentioning that in a theoretical level. But legacy, people who've been millionaires for generations, do we really think they don't know that? Do we really think they haven't paid researchers to plot out the next 50 or 100 years, that game theory it out, that if it goes this way, well, this is going to happen? What they do is the Hong Kong type of color revolutions, and then they reset the whole game board. It's naive. It's infantile to think that these things are just going to. That's why I'm saying the Gen Z, younger generation, is going to euthanize the older lot and say, push them over. And then they'll get their UBI basic income. Life is on the line. Kill or be killed. I know it sounds extreme, but Bolshevism, when, the Russian Revolution, it's taken nearly a century. This is how slow people are. And the same thing with the light bulb. What was his name? Faraday. No, I think nearly 1,000 attempts to create the filament. People were saying, "No, you're stupid. Light doesn't come that way." We can't rely on the herd. It doesn't work that way. The people who have a vested interest in protecting their legacy to pass on generational wealth, that's the audience for this. They will get the message. So we've got to be straightforward that as your children's friends are going to be turning on their parents, your children won't, because you will have nurtured them and protected them in a particular kind of way.